So he's got a skill in this form that basically if a skill hits his shield or his troop's shield, which starts at 10 seconds and goes for 5 seconds and then repeats, he gets healed back to full health, and so will they. So while it's not a deal breaker, like I've seen full auto modes for it, which is pretty impressive, but this was probably the most difficult for me. It didn't take too long. It was a couple of attempts to figure out the mechanic, and once that was done, it was all sweet. But once you get the timing down, you may lose a couple. Thankfully, in the chapter 9, you don't have to do a lossless win to get the 3 stars. So as you can see here, 3 stars, MVP with Enzo, who's, kind of an MVP in these sorts of things all around anyway. The amount of damage he puts on is very nice. So this one, he can damage all units. Heal effect for enemy units for 10 seconds is gone. So I opted to get rid of all heals. Like, if it's going to be reduced by basically 100%, then it's not really worth taking to begin with. And I do have, obviously, pay-to-win champions in here. I wouldn't say that I have a high-level investment in commanders. I've tried to keep it to a fair minimum. Enzo Lats are creeping up there now because I've sort of been chipping away at them. I'm not entirely sure if I want to continue to gold, but purple for now has been alright for the combat rating and fairly useful for, elite trials and such. So this one, basically going full damage and shield. You don't have to heal so much if you've just got constant shields going on. Marge, being a pay-to-win champion that is more expensive, I haven't obviously leveled her past grey, and you really don't need to. Even if you're not a big spender, she's just super handy, and if she ever ends up in the recruitment pass, then maybe I'll consider taking her further. But otherwise, even at grey, she just gets so much done. So every 10 seconds, increase all allies' skill damage reduction by 80%. So skills isn't going to be a big thing that you're going to be using, not to lay on the damage at least. Where Enzo and Lats, again, both have really good setups for doing damage without their skills. Enzo gets more damage as his health is reduced, but he is just in general a hard hitter. And Lats deals damage based on their health. It's 10% that gets added to the damage, but it is capped at 5816. So it's not gonna, you're not just gonna chip them down in 10 hits, but still, you're not reliant on her skill to get the job done. So once again, full auto, you can sort of sit back and chill. Each of the autos, these setups that I've got here aren't foolproof. You may have to run them a couple of times. In particular, the Night King levels where he does have one-shot abilities that are triggered based on different criteria. So you got to watch out for those, and if he hits the wrong champion with those skills, then it may mess up the clear rate. But it didn't take more than one try for me each time. I ran them 3 times after I cleared it the first time, and there was some losses in there, so it's not foolproof, but it gets the job done most of the time. The rewards are particularly nice, although that level there wasn't so generous. Quite a lot of gold items dropping, and I guess that's part of the reason they've released this now. So when health is below 60%, buff to all allies, which gives a lot of healing, and increases skill damage, as well as resilience. So you don't need stuns here, or you can try, but with that sort of resistance, they're not going to be overly useful. So I opted to not take tanks with stuns based on that. Uma may and may not be useful. I just kind of like using her in these sorts of events. Weirwood Memories and Weirwood. I just find it an interesting mechanic. I knew that there was going to be some people dying due to the one shot, so I thought a little bit of extra defense and some damage. And the reason that they may have looked at adding another chapter in, as the item drops are much better than the previous chapters, and with the Awakening now, we've been doing some pretty hard grinding to get those characters or those commanders leveled up or graded up to 10. I mean, I've still got plenty to work on at this stage. I don't use hearts all that much. Obviously we've got some events and different things at different times that sort of require it. So I try and save them for those, and there's no great rush for me at the moment. I've been mainly fighting on KVK days. I don't do a whole heap in Kingdom, particularly because I've been pretty busy lately. So this is one of the forms where he will be one-shotting some of his champions, just based on your damage to them. Well, not so much damage, kills. And so he executes somebody each time that you kill one of his allies or himself. Obviously, if you kill himself, you're the winner anyway, so that's not an issue. But that means you're basically never going to get through it lossless, because each time you kill one, you lose one. That does randomise the outcome a little. I wouldn't say that you can just get away with any of these commanders dying. Some of them are more useful than others. The main problem I had with it was if the wrong ones died, then there just wasn't enough damage in the team. So you could potentially just go full glass cannon and just, try and smoke them as quick as possible. This next one does a bit of AoE damage, as well as stuns for cavalry, so try and avoid them. I still opted to take Enzo along just because he is such a good damage dealer that even if he's down for 3 seconds every time the skill gets used, it's not a massive deal. Cheeky little ambush by the Night King, but with the with the shields rather, it didn't really make a problem. One thing I found really useful for this, now that I look at it though, is O'Brien chipping away at that back line. So the issue I had with the first setup I tried was they didn't die. There was no risk of losing because of that, but they didn't do enough damage to down everybody in the time allotted. Obviously, if you run out of time, you get an instant loss anyway. So O'Brien is just chipping away slowly at these back ones, while the frontline troops do their job at the front, as they should. And if they're not, well, what are they doing there? But he's doing a brilliant job. They're, the shields are tanking it, he's just chipping away at them, and they effectively all die at the same time, within the time limit. So no worries there, and he gets his MVP tag, so it beats out Enzo, who's just constantly hitting the whole time. So he's not a light guy, he hits hard. This next form has got a lot of buffing. Now I've seen Winston used to really good effect here, just because I like doing things a little bit differently, and because my Winston's not all that leveled. Rather, I got that whole 1984 thing going on. But yeah, the health goes down and executes one random ally. That happens a couple of times based on percentage of health. But the main problem is that he is buffing everyone quite a lot. And really it starts getting pretty hard to do any damage to them at all if you let them live for too long. So rather than opting to reduce or remove their buffs, I went with Jean to get rid of the debuffs, and relied on the Enzo Lat's damage to pull us through. They start in this one with a heal, like a hot heal per second sort of setup, which was fairly annoying as well. It necessitated Theon and Barrett to reduce the healing just that bit, to make it possible to get them down before those buffs stacked up too much. So this is probably, once again, maybe not the smartest setup, but I just found it interesting to do it in a different way, rather than the ones I'd seen floating around the place. He's also got a really interesting mechanic on this, whereby as he drops down in HP, he'll take out one of yours, but will in turn take damage himself based on the percentage of health. So that actually works greatly to your advantage, because you don't have to do all the damage yourself. And the way it's set up, it seems that a lot of the time he'll basically suicide because of that. So once the guards are down, which does take a while thanks to those buffs, and as you can see they just keep stacking on, which is where Winton is good. Amongst others, there's a couple of different options for it. But yeah, so now we're on Night King himself. As he hits those percentage milestones, you'll see, Enzo's down here, and he'll go again shortly. But this time when he does, 540,000 damage taken. So he effectively did more than half his damage, more than half his health in